Hey guys, welcome back to the Lived It podcast. I'm your host, Liv, and I am so excited to be here yet another Monday. Don't we just love Mondays? I haven't said that in a while. But I'm so excited to have you guys here. If you guys do not know, this is a relationship-based podcast where we just share our experiences and share our testimonies of things that we have been through, things that we've went through, things that we're going through, and it's pretty much just a safe haven for people to be 100% vulnerable, for people to just put it all on the table because so often, especially as women, we're just so embarrassed to share like our trials and our tribulations because we don't want to look stupid or we don't want to look down upon or whatever the reason may be. It's like we hold in all of these experiences that life has given us. We hold in all these experiences that life have given us just because we don't want to be known as the stupid friend or the friend that gives too much chances or, girl, you sat with that, I would have been left. Ain't we heard it all before? Because I know I have. So this space, this podcast is just a place for people to come in and do just that. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Lived It podcast, where we've not only lived it, but we survived it. And if you've been here before, you already know the rundown. I've had some awesome guests and some awesome testimonials, people just sharing their story of how they went through whatever it is that they went through and how they got through it. And when I tell you, like, the reviews and the responses have been so good. Like, it's so good to see women come together and share their story, just purposefully share their story, and other women just kind of be able to take from that and just be able to say, hey, I'm going through the same thing, thank you for sharing your story, I appreciate it. Like, this is pretty much the space that I've built, and I've worked so hard building this. So if you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, because trust me, you're gonna love it here. I'm pretty new to this, so I'm working on not only building a community, but I want to build a family, just with not just women, but people that have just been through these traumatic things, and just them being able to share their story and help somebody else, because we're not just living for ourselves. I always tell people, like, how can you live your whole life the right way, quote unquote, the right way, and get to heaven, and God opens his pearly gates and he's like, well done, my child, and you don't have nobody behind you. Like, you can't even say, Lord, like, I rescued that person, or I helped that person, or I saved that person, or I steered that person in the right direction. So those are like my goals. Like, that's what's the word I'm looking for? That's what I'm working towards building, like, just a community of women and men that can help other women and men get through the trenches, the mud, the dirt. And like I told you guys before, like, I done been, child. I done told y'all I can write a book. I will write a book. But I done been through it all. So that's exactly what I have set out to build. And every day, my community is growing. My fan base is growing. I'm touching more and more people, and more women are reaching out to me. So I'm grateful to have this platform and have this spot right here. I am, I say this with a heavy heart. I am closing off this season pretty soon. I'm coming back. Trust me, I'm not I'm not disappearing. I'm coming back, but I'm closing off this season pretty soon, because this first season, I pretty much had in my head that I'm going to be interviewing family and friends, people in my immediate circle. Because when I first started this podcast, as I listened to like all these other podcasts, and I be jumping the gun, y'all, because I was like listening to like really, really top people. I'm like, I don't know anybody famous or anybody that's written several books, and like I just felt like I heard God speak to me, like, you have to use what you have, use the people that you have in your immediate circle, like, And as I thought back, I was like, we done all been through some really rough rough like relationship things. And that's exactly what I did. And even like, me personally, knowing these people personally, so I pretty much know the ins and out of their stories, but like having them come on to the podcast and they're really like pouring out their heart, like, yo, you don't understand how much of a big deal this is to me, that someone could come and sit in front of me and feel just 100% comfortable sharing their story, and just knowing that they're not going to be judged for it, and not just, being open to let the world know like where they fell short, or where they struggle. Like, that's amazing. But I'm going to be closing off this season pretty soon, just because I just have a lot of more. I have a lot more things that I want to bring to you guys via this podcast, and season 2 is gonna be lit. Season 2 is gonna be lit. But so if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, because you're gonna love it here. Trust me, you're gonna love it here. But today, who are we interviewing today? Me, just little old me. I just want to tell you guys a story, because I mentioned on a previous podcast episode how, I've been proposed to, but I didn't take up the offer. I was like, no thanks, in a nutshell. But I promised you guys I was gonna share this story, so here it is. Here's the story, y'all. Put on y'all seatbelts, because honey, this was a rough one. Like, this one actually kind of had me. I don't know. I wouldn't know. I don't even know how to explain it, but so this is how Black people start. Sorry. So boom. So this is how it started. So as you guys already know, like, as far as my background, I've kind of been kind of not gassing you guys up, but building you guys up for this story, just kind of, because I know people be like, oh, she's so stupid. What kind of woman is that? Who would do such a thing? Like, first of all, shut up. Only God could judge me. But I just kind of been telling you guys my background story, like how I was raised, where I came up. And for those of you who haven't listened back, I'm going to need you guys to go and listen back. But anyway, I'm going to share the story again. But yeah, I was raised by my aunt. I was raised by my aunt here in America, in Florida, in Miramar, Florida. And my parents lived back in the Bahamas. My mom had me when she was 16, and I'm not even the first child, so it was kind of like just a lot on her. So she chose to, give me to my aunt in hopes of me, having a better life, living a better life, having better opportunities. Because of course, being a Bahamian, she felt like I would have a better life and better opportunities, and I would make better choices if I was here in America, I didn't understand that all at first, but I'm very much grateful that I was able to grow into seeing it more clearly, because for years I kind of resented her for that. But as I got older, I was like, dang, I would have did the same thing, mama. Like, I can't even fault you. But yeah, so she was back in the Bahamas. I lived here with my aunt. My father was pretty much not in my life at all. I mean, I think he called here and there. I mean, he did call here and there, but it was nothing to say like we had a relationship. We never had a relationship. And he lived back in the Bahamas too. And then for a while in my younger years, he ended up going to jail for several years. So it was a point where like he was non-existent. So I was raised by really, really strong women. Like, I have a lot of aunts here on this side. I mean, I have a lot of aunts, period, but I have a lot of aunts here on this side, and they're all pretty much married like 20, 25, like plus years. And I definitely had that upbringing to say, I've seen marriage, I've seen love and this and that, but I never, I never felt compelled to be married. And I could remember just being in like middle school and high school, and how girls are. They have this book and they have their whole wedding planned out by like the age of 50, and like the colors, the people, the everything. And I just was like, I was never that person. Like, I never, to this day, I've never like, sat down to say, okay, this is how my dream. I never had a dream wedding. Like it was like maybe if it comes to it, I would think I would prefer to just go to the courthouses. Like that has always been my mentality. So when I was 20, I don't know. I'm just gonna throw a number out there because I honestly cannot. I want to say this was about 4 years ago. So I want to say like maybe when I was like 23, 24, maybe 23. My boyfriend, who's the father of my kids, him and I have been dating for 11 years now, on and off. He proposed to me. Well, let's rewind because the first time, he brought up marriage, we were sitting in the hospital, 18-year olds holding this beautiful baby girl with all this beautiful hair. And he looked at me and I looked at him and like, we were just like, we were like, what the hell did we do? Like, we got a whole baby here. Like, what the hell? So he looked at me and he was like, we should get married now, right? And I was like, no. Like, no. So I think I definitely shut him down in that aspect. But I always been the type of person, even like once I got pregnant, of course, everybody's like, yeah, well, you need to get married and make it right, make the sin right. And I'm like, I always been like this strong-headed person, like, nobody gonna tell me what I need to do. And just because people were putting that in my head, I was like, no, like, I'm not getting married to anybody because I have a baby for them. And then, I've always been like a negative Nancy. So I'm like, and then I get stuck in this marriage. I don't like him. Then and I was like, no. So I was like, yeah, no. So he pretty much scratched that. But then when I was 23, like he went all out with a proposal. Now let me just give you guys the backstory so you guys don't be like, I'm this heartless, like frozen Elsa, Queen Elsa type woman. Like it wasn't like that. So right before that, him and I had like a huge breakup. And when I say huge, like huge, like everybody knew what was going on. Like it was a lot. And I was really the one who, now let me start by saying this. He set the fire, but I threw the gas on the fire. Like I was like, oh, you want to be out here doing your own thing? Now let me show the world who you really is. So like I just blew this whole thing up. So, we split, we went our separate ways, and it was just like, you know, I hated him. Like I hated him. I hated his name. I hated the sight of him. I hated the fact that we had a child together. Like I just didn't want anything to do with this man. And it just so happened, months and months rolled past. We split, he moved out. We went our separate ways. We were just living two completely separate lives. And, eventually, like, of course we have a child, so we still have to communicate with one another. And we were like communicating, and it's just so funny. People just don't realize like the connections you have when you have kids with people, because I always tell people like, don't sleep around with people that you can't see yourself being connected to long time, because people feel like, when you sleep around, it's all fun, it's all games, it's all fun and games until you bring a baby into the picture, like, and that has always been my deepest fear, was just being tied to someone that I did not want to be tied to. So back to the story, we still kept in communications with one another. And of course, because our love history is just so deep, no matter whatever it is that we did to one another, because I'm not saying that I'm 100% innocent. Like he done did some things to me and I done did some things to him, but at the same time, I always have to keep in mind that we were so young. Like him and I started talking, like dating, when I was 16. He was 17. It was like I met him when I was 16. And him and I was so young, so it just was a lot of, because of the pressures of, having this baby so young, we were living a totally adult life way before we were adults. Like I'm talking like cooking, cleaning, washing, dropping the baby off to school, to daycare, like everything, like working, trying to maintain a work life, a mom life, uh a relationship. It was a lot. So it was a lot of things that we did like we mishandled each other a lot, just because of how young we were and how unknowledgeable we were about, like, what we were doing. So Like, so let me just clear it out there because I don't want y'all to be like, Liv was on the podcast acting like da da da. Listen, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of a lot of things. But him and I had split, and you know, I told you guys this story previously. He had stepped out on me in the relationship, and I've always been like this. I'm a strong black woman. And again, I was raised by strong black women. Like I was raised by women, even though they had a husband, if they had to hold it down by themselves, they would still be able to. Like it wasn't that I depend solely on my husband type relationships that I had witnessed. Like, so I have always been like a strong black woman. And I was like, no, I'm not sitting here taking your ish, this and that or whatever. And like I said previously, he was like apologetic, but I was like, no, get out. I don't want to see you. Like you like out of my face. So we ended up splitting. During that time that we had split, like I was a drunken mess, like a whole drunken mess. Like when I told y'all I used to be out drinking every day, like from work to the bar, from the bar back to work, coming home, cooking dinner, back out, like, So it was a lot of things that I got myself into that I just shouldn't have been involved in, like just out of hurt and just out of like, looking for someone that was going to ease the pain. So it was a lot of things that I just was doing just, out of being hurt. Like I'm a savage now. Like I done did it I done did it the good way. I done did it the right way. I still got crapped on. So I was like, you know what? Since y'all don't like good live, let me give y'all bad live. Okay? So I was like on this roller coaster, like we out here, like girl, what time you stepping out? And that was like the that was where I was in life or whatever. So, of course during that period I wasn't like just at home like sulking like he left me, what am I gonna? No, I was out there. So of course, I was out there, I was dating, letting the streets been waiting. And I was dating a guy during that time, and I don't know what happened, but he started to reach out to me more and more, and I just was like, no, no. And oh, this is what happened. The girl that he stepped out with, she ended up turning up pregnant because even though he had stepped out, like, we lived together, so it was still like, I was mad at him, and I resented him. I was giving him the cold shoulder, but like the more after he made this mistake, the more he tried to, apologize and get back at me, not get back at me in that way, but the more he apologized and the more he chased me down trying to get me back, the more I pulled away. And the more I pulled away, the more I was pushing him away back, pushing him into the arms of this other girl. So eventually she all of a sudden she's pregnant. So I'm like, well, ugh. Like I was disgusted, y'all. Like I was like, what the hell? I am not this woman who's gonna be no one's stepmama. Like what? Like I couldn't even comprehend this. And when I told y'all, I went downhill, like no gap, no brakes, like just down. And I was like, you gotta go. Like you're disturbing my peace. The girl was stopping, like she was provoking. Like me and Kentrell talked about this on her episode. Like it's one thing to deal with like a mistress, but to deal with a provoking mistress, I wasn't for it. I was like, nope. Black don't crack, baby, and it's not gonna be, you ain't gonna be causing my black to crack. Like you is not gonna be having bags under my eyes and be stressed out in here for, like, you gotta go. Like you and this little, what y'all know what I was trying to say. So I was like, no, you gotta go. And like she was like, she was, when I don't hate people, y'all, but like she was one of them girls. I was like, I had to lay pause on her. I was like, you know what? Like if you pop back up to my house, like, oh Lord, I done went back. When I think back. So, he ended up like, just pretty much leaving and whatever. And the girl was pregnant. I was like, how, like, So, we still had to communicate for the sake of our daughter, who was, I want to say like maybe 4 or 5 at the time. And Yeah, we did whatever. But I was dating. I was like, I'm not about to be here like crying and this and that. So I was out here like, streets been waiting. But the more we communicated as far as our daughter goes, like the more we were, kind of getting back into the flow of like, I love you, like I miss you, this and that. And I just was like, no, I'm not about to be no one stepmama. Like, do I look like stepmama material to you? And no shade to those of you who are stepmothers, but like, it's just something I couldn't, at that age, I could not grasp. Like, we've been together this long and I'm about to have a whole stepchild. Like, no. So, I was like, no, like, this is a sign from God. Like, we're not meant to be together. Like, leave me alone. And unfortunately, the lady, the young girl, she ended up losing the baby. So, he reached out to me, this and that or whatever, and I was like, what does that have to do with me? Like, good for you. And, I'm putting on this hard facade, like, I gotta be this strong black woman. So we ended up back together yet again. Like, we ended up back together, and I kind of felt like it was forced. Like, he just moved back in, and I was like, hold on, wait. I, like, I said we were gonna work on things, like, you didn't back. Like, no, this isn't how I wanted it. But he ended up, like, we ended up moving in, and we called ourselves working on our relationship. But at the same time, I was like, I had a life going on when you left. Like, I was dating somebody. So it was kind of like, you moved back and I got to cut them off cold turkey. And that was pretty much what I ended up having to do or whatever. So one day he calls me, I'm at work. He was like, hey, I have a surprise for you, this and that. Make sure you're getting off on time because like I said, I was a manager. So I never got off on time. Like, I lived there. Like, this was like, I was always there trying to just make, do my job or whatever. And, he ended up, he was like, oh, pack a bag, we're gonna do something special tonight. So in the back of my head, I'm thinking, Lord, don't let this man propose to me, because it just wasn't on my list of things to do, especially after everything that we were going through. And yeah, we were working, we were doing better and everything, but like, at that time, I still wasn't over it. And it was like, I kind of felt forced back into the relationship, and I was still bitter as hell. Like, if you show me this girl picture, I would punch a wall. So we're driving down, and I like reach to open the glove compartment. He like slaps my hand. So I'm like, okay, so something's in the glove compartment. So we pull up to the gas station. I'm nosy. Like, you're not going to have me in here riding around with things that I don't know what's going on. So I'm like, let me see what's in this glove compartment. Listen, I'm not the type of woman that you could surprise, because I'd be watching everything. So I see this ring. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this man is about to propose to me. So I'm like messaging like my group chat, and they're all excited, like, yay, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, no, this is not what I want right now. Like, so I'm like we're driving down to this beautiful hotel, and I'm like, the whole time, all I'm thinking, like, I got knots in my stomach, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's about to do this. I'm not ready. Like, Jesus help me. I don't know what I'm going to say. Like, I don't want to hurt his feelings and say no, but I don't want to say yes. But I kind of do want to marry him, but I really don't, like, not right now. And it was just a lot. So, like, the night just kept progressing. I could have seen, like, he's getting more and more antsy. And I'm like, this is it. Oh, God, this is it. So, like, he gets, did he get, you know what? I don't even think he got down on one knee. It was a sign. But he ended up proposing to me, just expressing his love for me and proposing. And of course, like, I said yes. And, it was a part of me that wanted to marry him, but it just was a part of me that wouldn't forgive him for like the hell that I had been dragged through in the previous months. So I'm just like, what am I gonna do? And like, I said yes, I wore the ring, this and that. And the more I looked at the ring, the more I resented him for just everything that had happened. And like, I started to feel stupid. Like, I'm about to marry this man, and he just did all of this. Like, I done made it all public. Like, so, I just was like, the more I wore the ring, like, just the more I felt doomed. And I was like, one day, like, he just couldn't figure out like what was the problem with me, and I gave him back the ring, and I was like, I can't do this. And I mean, I think he was gone that next day. Like, he was gone. And I was like, I was hurt, but at the same time, I felt relieved. Like, huh, I don't have no one pressuring me to do this. And, I won't say that I regretted it, but, I felt bad that, I had someone that wanted to, to, you know, to make me their wife and that loved me on this level. And I couldn't grasp it. I just couldn't like I couldn't grasp the fact that I'm going to be someone's wife. Like, and then it was later on down the line, like, I was like, I wonder if I have commitment issues. I was like, I wonder if I have commitment issues. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, girl, you ain't got no commitment issues. That man that messed up, this and that. He didn't did this, he didn't did that, and da 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 da. You be having these two people on your shoulders talking. But I just was like, I started looking more and more into commitment issues. So the first sign of commitment issues, like, you worry that you won't have a life anymore. I was like, okay, that's pretty accurate. Another sign was you don't want to lose your freedom. You start to feel trapped. And I was like, okay, I guess I started to feel like that at one point. 3, you think your partner is demanding. He wasn't. He's not that type of person, but yeah, I felt a little bit like that at times. You don't know who you are yet. Bing, this was the problem. And lastly, you think the grass is greener on the other side. You always think the grass is greener on the other side. And this is based on an article that I read by Charlotte Granger. But I was like, this is it. Like, I have commitment issues. Like, then of course, the psychologist in me, I'm not, let me tell y'all, I'm not a psychologist before people be like, oh, she didn't say, no, I'm not a psychologist, but like, I've always been like, I've always been interested in the way people think, myself included. So I was like, okay, this is my problem. I don't know. These are my issues. Like, it was a little bit of each one of them, but the one that stood out to me was like, you don't know who you are yet. And even after I gave back, let me go back to the story. Even after I gave back the ring, him and I, that was another spiral. Like, he was cold. Like, after that, he was cold. Like, he did not care nothing about how I was feeling. Like, communication cut. Like, if it's about the kid, hey, I sent you some money. I'm picking her up. Like, I'm downstairs. Send her down. Like, it was bad. Like, yo, it was bad. I can't even remember how we ended up getting. Oh, I remember. We got back together again after that. But I just say this to say, like, I didn't realize all of the issues that I was dealing with. Like, abandonment issues, like mommy issues, daddy issues, cheating issues. Like, it just was a lot that me personally that I was dealing with. And the one that stood out to me the most was like, you don't know who you are yet. And that was a big thing for me, because even though like the women that raised me were like so strong and independent, like, I just kind of felt like I had watched women just kind of sink into this role as, okay, I'm the wife, and like, I cook, I clean, and that just didn't sit well with me. Like, it just didn't sit well that I'm going to be someone's wife and I'm going to just be sitting here washing, cooking, and cleaning like Molly the maid. Like, not saying that was what was going to happen, but that's just pretty much how society displayed a wife. And I never liked that. And it took me a long time. Like, as I pushed more towards 30, I was like, you could build your own marriage. Like, you don't have to look at anyone's marriage and say, okay, this is how it's supposed to be, or this is how it's going to be. Like, once you and your partner sit down and you both get on one accord, like, of your expectations of each other, and share your goals and your dreams and the things that you're working toward, you build your marriage around that. And just because I was so young and I was just so like misinformed about marriage, that wasn't the persona that I had in my head about marriage. So as I got older, him and I, you know, we push to have more meaningful conversations. And I've been saying this very often. I speak about meaningful conversations because I kind of realized that sometimes we're just surrounded by people who are not feeding our souls. Like they're not feeding us the right things. And this is the reason why, like, even with my podcast, like I push to have meaningful conversations. And, when I was doing the podcast, someone joked and was like, "Who are you to give it relationship advice? Like, you and your boyfriend have split this much time, and y'all have been through this." Because, like I say, my life is an open book, and I always tell people like nobody can pull my card. I'm solid, baby. Like, ain't nothing you can pull out here and say, "Oh, well, listen, my life is an open book." Like, so people are like, who are you to give relationship advice? But people are so small minded that they don't even realize like this podcast isn't just for, my audience and helping them to have like a more meaningful relationship and or get through whatever it is that they're going through, but it's also for myself. Like, of course, I know that I'm not perfect and I have these issues, and it's things that I want to work on myself with. And even with the women that I've brought on, like, just in the space of these past 8 weeks, like they have taught me so much, and I feel like I've grown as a person. And I hope you, as my listeners, like I hope you guys are too. But like, I just want you guys to know, like, this isn't just for y'all. Like, this is for me too. Like, I need this, and this is like therapy for me. And just like speaking with different married women, and speaking with women that have been divorced, or women that have been in relationship with other sexes, and like just these different women, like it's helped me to try and get to where I'm trying to get in my relationship, and just kind of brush off the not even brush off, move the commitment issues completely, and just kind of learn from people that have been in situations similar to myself, or people that are in a loving, caring marriage. And I've interviewed. I don't like to say interviewed, but I've had sessions with several people that are married, that are happily married, that have been married for quite some time, and it's just a lot of things that like it opened my mind up. Like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. Like, even when the episode with Kathy, when she was saying like, when if you with God being the foundation, if God is the foundation in your marriage, it's certain things that your partner won't do to you just because out of their love and out of their respect for God. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow, I never looked at it like that. Or even with Kentrell, like when she spoke about her divorce, and like all of the things that she had been through, and just the lack of respect that she was feeling on her end as a wife, like it was like, oh, okay, like I understand different things about that situation. Or even like when I spoke with Felicia, her and her husband have been married 7 years, and just as she described the type of husband that she has, like, the husband that she has that wants to see her doing well, and that pushes her to do well, and that pushed her into therapy. Like, I was like, oh, wow, like, it's great that your partner loves you that much, that because like a lot of people, they feel like, oh, I don't want to tell my problems to a therapist, and oh, I don't want to be on someone's couch, but just the fact that being a black woman married to a black man, and your black husband, because as black people, we don't go to therapy. We're taught like what happens in this house stays in this house, like go pray, like take it to God. If God can't help you, you got demons. That's pretty much how we grow up. And just hearing that from her was like, wow, like that's amazing. So like I've definitely been taking notes from the people that's around me with their stories. So not only have you guys been taking notes, but your girl, she trying to get herself together, get her soul together. But and it was another thing that stood out to me. I was watching this sermon by Pastor Creflo Dollar, and he said, this is exactly what he said. He was like, how he treats you is none of your business. It's how you treat him that is your primary focus. Because once your primary focus is how you treat him, his primary focus would automatic shit. Well, it should, because you know these men be doing their own thing. His his primary focus should automatically become how he treats you. And I was like, wow, like we get so wrapped up in, well, he don't do this or he don't do that, so I'm not gonna do this and da 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 da. And I've told you guys, like, I'm petty, I'm tit for tat, and that's been me for quite some time. Like, oh, you're not gonna do this? Okay, well, no dinner tonight, or just even small things, and even sometimes bigger. Like, oh, you want to step out on a relationship? Now, let me show you what a real savage is. Um, and then some things I ain't proud of, but God been working on me, y'all. But so I applied a lot of these things that I had been learning based on, like, the people that I had brought onto my podcast, and even like the information that I have sought out for, because of course I'm human. Like, I want to grow, I want to learn, I want to build, I want to see, like, what is it that I'm doing wrong. Like, people always say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting something different. And that's exactly how I felt with my relationship. Like, I'm like, I really want this to work. Like, I really love this man really loves me, but it's like somewhere in it we keep getting lost in the sauce. Like, what are we doing wrong? Like, and that's when you have to kind of look to yourself, like, okay, this has been an issue previously, this has been an issue previously. Okay, when this happens, like, everything goes haywire. So, I've been like seeking this information just to make sure that our last split was our last split. Because, girl, I told him, I said, listen, if you let me walk out the door again, I don't know, I can't promise you that I'll be back. So, like, him and I have really been on one accord. But even back to Pastor Creflo Dollar's quote or whatever, I just was like, wow, like, I never looked at it like that. So, I pretty much made it my mission, like, not to be so petty and not to be so tit for tat, but like, even in times when I feel like he's fallen short, I would still, show him that same energy as if he's doing everything right. And it's honestly been working. Like, thank you, Pastor Creflo Dollar, for like opening my mind to that. But I was like, even when things haven't been perfect, like, I still strive to, still to be this woman for him. Like, even when I feel like the love has drained out a little bit, or you're working more than usual, or I feel frustrated because whatever the case may be, like, I still try to, like, not lose the same energy and, just keep the momentum in our relationship. And just how, Pastor Creflo Dollar says that, when you're worrying about how you treat him, his primary focus is going to be how he treats you. So I'm giving him, this love, this respect, this loyalty, and all these things. So in return, he's like, oh, well, my woman, even though last week I messed up and I did this, or I made her feel this way when I said this, because I still treat him with that respect, and I still keep that momentum going in our relationship. It's like the energy is reciprocated. So y'all, like, your girl been learning. Your girl is growing up. And if anybody knows me personally, I know they'd be like, I know people, like, you know how people are. They'll be like, well, she be doing this, or he be doing this, or yeah, she said this one time. Like, for those of you, like, who are those people, like, you do know we grow, right? Like, we're human. Like, if you stop growing, you're dead. Okay? If you ain't got nothing else to work on, you're dead. So I know a lot of y'all be thinking that you guys have arrived and this and that. Every day is a constant. You should be constantly trying to grow and move and evolve, like, every day. Like, every day I'm out here doing something different, like trying to right my wrongs, just trying to get my spirit connected to, like, our creator. Like, these are the things that I work on a day-to-day basis, and it shows in the relationship. And for those of you who may have, like, commitment issues, just try and find the root of it. Because, like, it took me a while to realize, like, to, like, actually put a name on the things that I had been feeling, or maybe the thoughts that goes into my head. Because, like, people won't say, like, oh, I have commitment issues, or I have daddy issues, or I have abandonment issues. Like, not to say that that's a cop out, But it's important to be able to like pinpoint what the issue is so that you can fix the issue. Like, don't just say like, oh, I don't know, when this happens, I like, and you just, just no, you have to figure out what it is, what's the problem. And as soon as you pinpoint the problem, you could work towards finding a solution, but you can't solve something that you don't know what the issue is. And even like going back to like abandonment issues and daddy issues, like I said before, like I grew up feeling